Hello everyone, welcome to Paranormal Ripples. I am Ray, and as you may have seen, I've got an updated trailer now. We have added two elements to it. Abandoned Legacies, which I'm going to be talking about now. Well, which is a new show. And gaming. I'll be starting gaming on this channel in the next few days. So, if you've got any ideas for games I should play, let me know in the comments and that. And if you, like I said, if you enjoy the channel, please like and subscribe to it and all that good stuff. And go and follow me on TikTok and Facebook. Right. That's all we're done with for a minute. Let's discuss Abandoned Legacies, shall we? This new show. Right. Abandoned Legacies is my way of introducing this new show, which is all about abandoned stuff and like abandoned places, ghost roads that have been lost over time, and projects like that have been built and they've been scrapped or for whatever reason, or something's happened and they've gone in a different direction, and treasures that have lost over time and stuff like that. So what better way to start off with than a piece of British history than something to do with our capital city here in England, London, and something that could have changed the whole dynamic of the capital city as I know it, and as every Brit would have known it, and every tourist would have known it, and that is what I'm going to share with you now. London's Lost Ringway. This article was done in 2022, but as you can see, this would have been done after World War II, and that. So let's have a read of it, shall we? And this article was done by Michael Denez, or wherever you pronounce it. Sorry, guy, for the pronunciation. And that. I'll through it briefly, and you'll have to, if you want to go and research it, it's really fascinating. So, London's Lost Ringways. This monstrous plan to build major motorways through some of London's greatest neighbourhoods fell apart. But the price was the birth of the NIMBY movement and the permanent ceiling on Britain's infrastructure ambitions. So that's what an artist's impression would have been like of our ringways, you know. London is a city of few motorways, and you cannot drive them for long without hitting a ghost. Take the northerly M1, which concludes at Brent Cross with a ski ramp heading into an open sky, or the M11, which starts at Junction 4 with like an urbanist riddle. The M23 from the south manages to drop from a 6-lane highway to a village high street in half a mile, hiding a secret 45-metre wide road in the middle of an unreachable forest. Meanwhile, in the shadow of Westfield Shopping Centre, authorities successfully camouflage a motorway-sized gap in the urban fabric beneath a campsite for travellers. Unfinished slip roads and missing flyovers seem to beckon at every junction like doorways to a neverwhere London. This feeling of being haunted is no illusion. In 1965, London got a new local government, the Greater London Council, which united the city and suburbia for the first time. For the next 8 years, the GLC embarked on what would have been the most ambitious building project in the city's history, and to every one of these loose ends, London's motorways was meant to connect to a part of it. The failure, and I'll go, like I said, I'm just running briefly for it. The failure of the ringways may have left only a few physical traces, but it left social and institutional impacts that upended what it meant to build in Britain and what defined the planning battles of today. So here's what the ringways would have been like, they're saying. Here's ringway 1, then ringway 2, then there's ringway 3. Today, London only has one ring road, the M25, which runs through the city's rural fringe, often over 20 miles from London's official centre, Charing Cross, where you are from. But back in the 60s, the intention was to have 3 linked together with new and extended radial motorways, stretching all the way into what would become Zone 2, which includes Brixton, Holland Park, Maida Vale, Bethnal Green and Camden. The overall effect would have been to turn the map of London into a gigantic dartboard, basically. Look, the outermost ring, ringway 3, this yellow one, would have been built next to some of London's leafiest suburbs, not to mention across the remains of Henry VIII's favourite palace at Nonsuch. In the middle, ringway 2 would have crashed through the endless terraces of South London, so like Brixton and all that, before crossing the Thames, putting the finish line of the river's annual boat race in the shadow of a 6-lane concrete bridge. And then Chiswick. There's the inner London one. Look. Blackheath, Lewisham, Peckham, Brixton, Clapham, Chelsea. But it is ringway 1 at the centre, which would shock the modern observer. Originally referred to as the Box, it was a 4 by 6 mile insertion that would have submerged many of modern London's liveliest areas. If we trace the route clockwise, every hour would be marked by destruction. At 1 and 2 o'clock, Dalston and Hackney would have gone from being the site of trendy nights out to enormous interchanges. See? That's what their impression would have been like. A Dalston. Look. I can imagine that in London. The list of destruction was kept going by the historic neighbourhood of Blackheath, urban Lewisham and up-and-coming Peckham, while at 6 o'clock the middle of Brixton would have been levelled as part of a comprehensive redevelopment plan. Suffolk House, which is known as the Barrier Block, if you don't know what that one is, it's this one. They've made these zigzag ones, right, in that shape to make it like a noise barrier. Look, to block out the noise, basically. Here you go. They said it there as well, which is known as the barrier block because of the fortified exterior it presented as to the planned route of the motorway. Is it another ghost? Its zigzag walls were designed to deflect noise back towards the highway. At 8, Clapham Junction Station would have been buried under a gargantuan 16-lane braided interchange. Ritchie, Chelsea, Kensington and Holland Park would all have been shadowed by the new road, and as we hit midnight, Camden Market would have been torn down to make way for the pillars of 8 lanes of a motorway, basically. But this never happened. Public disquiet and financial reality grew and grew, and then in 1923, a newly elected Labour administration at County Hall made its first act to kill this proposal stone dead. Look, there's a great London chief transport politician, Robert Viggers. When we consider the people behind them, we get a mental image of men like Robert Moses of New York, known as Bulldozer Bob. Now I know how Bob the Builder got his name. I'm joking. Overbearing figures who carved up cityscapes and condemned millions to motorized dependency to satisfy their vanity. Seems logical to assume a plan to chain London in motorways would have come from similar tarmac maniacs. The great road builders of America acted as if they had a duty to speed up the slowing journey of motor cars and could only do so by adding more freeways. By contrast, the Transport Department of the Greater London Council was doing all it could to tame the rise of the motor car. They began constructing London's most recent new tube line and planned a crossrail twice the size of the line, destined to open later in 2022. They pioneered policies which would be considered best practice by their successors today, like integrating land use and transportation planning so as to minimize pressures on the network. They even had plans for a system of road pricing that were so far along that they'd had a draftsman design the permits that would go onto car windscreens or go in car windscreens. As for Peter Stott, the head of the GLC's transportation department and London's answer to Bulldozer Bob, he was a shy engineer who seemed painfully conscious of the damage that traffic was doing to London. And as early as 1969, well before he was fashionable, he was trying to convince his counterparts at the Ministry of Transport that the best use for London's expensive new system of computer-controlled traffic lights would be to slow traffic down rather than speed it up, in order to balance the flow of traffic across the city as a whole. Crazy, isn't it? Here you go, concrete reality. On paper, London's wingways were at the cutting edge of environmental design. Modern readers goggle in awe at the sight of Wingway 1 barging its way through historic neighbourhoods at the edge of inner London. But this was restrained compared to other proposals. The A-Ring of the 1943 Abercrombie plan would have put a motorway under the middle of Hyde Park. God, could you imagine that? While a 1963 plan by Peter Hall, later to become Britain's most famous urbanist and father of the London Overground, would have put a motorway along the northern wall of Buckingham Palace and a major interchange in the middle of Trafalgar Square. Wingway 1, by contrast, had the same diameter as the city of Sheffield, which is near me, and inside this, the planners were clear that public transport must be king. Look. The Shetland Vale. I know that area very well. One of the most prominent examples was Blackheath, a leafy village that had been home to astronomers and lesser royals before it was swallowed by London's spread in the 19th century. Wingway 1 needed to go through the area, and for the motorway to follow the railway to minimise environmental damage, it would have had to go through the heart of the village, cutting apart the high street and demolishing row after row of fine Victorian villas. As a result, Blackheath residents began organising themselves into the Motorway Action Group. So basically, they started fighting back. The head of the group, J. Michael Thompson, also became the first transport thinker to publicly air an idea that has enlivened opposition to road sawing ever since. The concept of induced demand, a way of describing the response to an increasing supply of a zero-price good. In simple terms, the idea was that if you built better roads to remove traffic without charging people to use them, more people would begin using the new road space, and congestion may not fall. There, there's the expected route of the Westway. Look, from which connected Paddington and Shepherd's Bush. That is what it would have looked like. Although the project predated the ringways and was not part of the proposed system, it was London's first experience of the reality of urban motorways. 2.5 miles of stanchions, bridge decks, and surrounding wasteland. It was something even the most ardent brutalist would struggle to love, even before the rooftop wall of traffic began to build. And if you see White, I think that's White City Stadium, I could be wrong. To make matters worse, opening day was a fiasco. Some neighbouring residents lived on Acklam Street, a stereotypical London terrace now stranded so close to the Westway that some inhabitants would endure noise levels similar to having a vacuum cleaner constantly on, and they decided to make their feelings on the project known. As the ceremony to open the road was underway, they climbed onto their roofs, and unveiled a massive banner behind the minister reading, "Get us out of this hell, rehouse us now." Look. A few months later, the minister demonstrated his thanks by paying for the entire street to be demolished. But the reality of the Westway, together with the opening of other controversial urban motorways in other cities, meant that urban road building was no longer an intellectual exercise. Add to this a growing fear of traffic fumes, leaded petrol, and engine noise, and fewer people were enthusiastic about the prospect of a new urban motorway in their area. Look, and then there's what you remember today about it. Look, it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy how that could have turned out, though. You know, just like that, it could have just turned, you know. That's what the works in progress article was. But if you go to the Independent, London's, here you go Independent. This is what the Independent article was in 2011, and that. There you go. Imagine walking through Camden Town, but instead of eccentric markets and giggling tourists, there's an 8-lane motorway soaring on concrete pylons above a windswept wasteland, or Dalston. No hit bars and warehouse conversions, just a gigantic spider's web. Road junction which has obliterated everything, or Ivory. No delis or pubs, a great slab of grey trunk road instead. Similar story would go in places like Clapham, Kilburn, Deptford, Barnes, Canonbury, Balham, Battersea, and the list could go on. And that, look, everyone knows about the Blitz, yet hardly anyone is aware of the hidden history of these motorways. And this secret story of destruction and hope is almost as compelling as the stories of how the East End held out during Hitler's attempt to flatten the capital. I became intrigued while living in Shepherd's Bush. I wondered why there was a mile-long motorway that didn't go anywhere. This road was known as the West Cross Route. At either end, Holland Park and White City roundabouts have slip roads, suggesting the motorway would have ploughed on north and south through dense housing. It turns out this was the plan, small part of a monumental undertaking. Roads enthusiast Chris Marshall, is a ringways expert. The motorway box plan alone came with a price tag of billions of pounds, tens of billions in today's prices. Well, it could be hundreds this down now with inflation and that. and was put before the cabinet as a single scheme that made it at the time and probably, if adjusted for inflation even now, the single biggest item of public expenditure ever proposed. Engineer Charles Bressie and architect Sir Edwin Lutyens knocked heads together in the 30s, but the Second World War got in the way of their plans. There's the Abercrombie one. When the Euston Arch was demolished for a new train station in 1961, it seemed that nothing was sacred anymore. Other world cities got their motorways. Paris had its Peripherique, while Robert Moses was carving freeways through the Bronx at will. The Greater London Council, Final Assault on Traffic Jams, was drawn up in secret and eventually published in 1966. There were to be 4 concentric ring roads. The North Circular and M25 were completed in the 1980s, which is still there today. The motorway box, which was Ring Way 1, which we were talking about earlier, even though it looked like a parcel more that had been squashed to fit through a letterbox, was the real Trojan. 4 interconnected motorways that would have caused 100,000 people to be evicted and changed the lives of millions of Londoners. The North Cross route was to slice from Alston to Hackney, the South Cross route from Clapham Junction to Kidbrooke, and the 2 parallel roads would be joined up by the West and East Cross routes to form one bulbous 8-lane ring road. The longest completed section snakes down. There you go. What would a London cheese wired up with elevated motorways have looked like? The longest completed section snakes down from Hackney to Blackheath, but there's also a surprising clue in Brixton. There's Suffolk House, yeah. That was built for like I said, the build was built for the purpose of having when the motorway was built, that M zigzag would have brought the noise back off of that building and back into the motorway, which was crazy. There's a small issue of cash, which also pay to this. In the end, London had got off lightly, but yeah, some cities never. There you go. Here's one. Wales, Britain's Mold Town. They're even more car crazy, and if anyone lives there or knows anyone who lives there, Birmingham in the West Midlands. They've got the most new urban highways of all. The Milanese Milanese sculptor's son, Herbert Manzoni, ran Birmingham's planning department like a personal fiefdom, a real slash and burn pioneer who followed the city's motto, forward, just forward, 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 to the letter. Manzoni authorised the most complete inner ring road project in a British city in history. That road, the Queensway, was opened by the Queen, God rest her soul, in 1971, the year before nearby Spaghetti Junction on the M6. By the maintenance costs, noise, pollution and space these roads took up soon turned many against them. The Queensway is now somewhat ungallantly dubbed a concrete collar by Brum's Turncoat Council, who started successfully demolishing parts of it in the 1990s, lifting the city out of a molten malaise. Back in London, it takes me an hour to get from Brixton to Hackney by public transport. It would have taken 10 minutes by Ringway, so maybe they did have an upside after all. From Hackney Wick Station, I crossed a wobbly footbridge towards Victoria Park and looked down on the river of cars. With motorways, it's the sound that hits you, that never-ending low-frequency growl. This is the old East Cross route, now the A12, the most complete portion of the motorway box built. Looking south towards Blackwall Tunnel, I imagine all those vibrant London districts replaced with roads like this. Over the interminable din of traffic, I listened to Mike Slocum's words from earlier in the day. Thank fuck they didn't build the roads through Brixton, he laughed. I swear I can hear a car horn as the expletive rolls around my head. So, yeah. What do you guys think of that? Would you have you been like, that goes into the other topic of ghost roads, and I'll go into them on another like abandoned legacies video. But to start off this topic, that is where I'm signing it off with the Deals Ring Road. So what do you guys think? You know? It is absolutely nuts what could have been, you know? Um is there any evidence left of of um of this Birmingham Queensway? Um let's have a look. Looks like there is a few little bit of evidence still. Guys. Let's have a look here. Um hmm. The Queensway, Birmingham. Yeah, it does look like there's a blooming bit of evidence still of them. Look. There is a. So I need to go zoom out and change that. Look. Here's Queensway. Look. Look. So there is it. There is evidence of it. Look. It's nuts. So let's go directions. It's Brigade Junction. Yeah. There's a 4-minute drive away. There's Brigade Junction, one of the most famous ones in Birmingham. Look. Yeah. And there's Queensway. It's absolutely nuts, isn't it? And if you notice, I think that's a coincidence, but no, that's actually pretty funny. Ringway Business Park, and it's running right near Queensway, where it was a ringway. You know, and our way traffic management is right there in Brigade Junction. That is nuts. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to leave this episode here and let you guys think and let me know what your thoughts are. If there's anything else you'd like me to talk about, please let me know, because I'd appreciate it. But this is the debut episode of Abandoned Legacies. Not ancient. That's because I'm thinking about doing a Secret to the Stars later on today. But this is Abandoned Legacies episode 1. If you liked it, like I said, please like and subscribe to the channel for more content. There's a playlist of all the videos I've done so far, so go through and enjoy them, and then let me know in the comments if what and like the ones, so then they get pushed up in the algorithm. Like me on TikTok and Facebook. And thank you everyone for watching. Have a good night or day wherever you're watching. And take care. Bye for now, guys.